Hey everyone, Future Ashley here. I wanted to go over a few little things that I was not able to cover in the video. So with regards to Genie Plus, I wanted to give my honest opinion now that I've actually done it. The whole family's done it. We have some pros and unfortunately a lot of cons. I'm hoping that with the new Disney management, they'll be able to address some of our concerns and, see YouTube, see the forums, see Facebook, see all the different areas where people are complaining about things, read the customer service reviews, and maybe make some positive changes. So let's just start off with the positives. It does cost money. There's a con, okay, over FastPass, which used to be free, but it's a lot less expensive than if you were going to Universal and paying full price for Express Passes. Now, Express Passes at Universal are about $100 a person per day, give or take. I mean, it's a little more, a little less, depending on your peak seasons, but overall, Disney Genie, when you're talking about 28 or less dollars a day per person, it's very clearly much less expensive than Universal. So that is a pro in its favor. And it does actually allow you to move quickly throughout the lines. So there are still lines, they're just a lot shorter. The con to that is that for everyone else that is not using Genie Plus for that ride or that day or that park, the lines move a lot slower. So that's kind of an unfortunate side effect. And another pro is that they do tend to favor the Genie Plus line a lot more than Universal does. Universal is usually like 50-50. They'll fill up one ride vehicle with one line and fill up another ride vehicle with another, and it keeps both lines kind of moving. But with Genie Plus, they do tend to kind of favor them in most of the rides that I experienced anyway with the Genie Plus lines. But again, that slows down the other line tremendously. So it'd be nice if it was a little more fair. Yes, I know we're paying for it, but people are paying for the park, so it would be nice if they actually got a chance to get on the ride pretty quickly as well. Another pro is that they do actually have the time listed for when you can book next in this newest update. I know that people were saying that that wasn't the case a few months ago, but with the newer update, well, we experienced this December, it will tell you at the front of your Genie Day or your your time period. It'll say when you can next book. It'll give you a time, or it'll say, okay, now. And that at least allowed me to, I had a lot of calendar reminders. So I would set a calendar reminder to say book again. Okay, 11:20 book again. 2 hours after that, book again if I was stacking. And then the other pro, or my last kind of pro that I think about, is that the times did appear most of the times throughout the day. So if you didn't snag that one ride at that one time that you really wanted, it would kind of have a similar time at some point throughout the day. If you just keep dragging down, refreshing, playing the Genie slots, as another channel that I love says, you're playing a slot machine and you're pulling it down and you're letting it refresh. A lot of times the time would reappear eventually, or a time similar to what you're looking for. It's kind of interesting. People would chop and change and cancel and rebook a new thing. And so times just keep kind of appearing and disappearing throughout the day. So let's go on to the cons. My biggest con is it is a glitchy system. It froze a lot, and I had to shut down the entire app and refresh, especially at 7 when everybody else is trying to get on, who's staying in a resort. It would freeze a lot in the mornings at that time. So I'd have to shut down the whole app, start back up, do it again. The times keep changing. So if you see a time that you like and you go to book it, by the time it goes into the next page, the time will have changed. Sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. It would just be the next available time that popped back up. So if someone canceled, an earlier time could show up, and that usually was pretty convenient, but most of the times it was for a later day, a later time in the day. You'll see this in one of my videos, but Slinky Dog Dash was really difficult. That was the first thing that I booked that morning. That was my most important ride of the day. And immediately by the time I pressed into the Genie and pressed onto that time at 7 o'clock and let it refresh and reload, and then it was a late time in the day, it was like 5 o'clock, and then I hit that time and all of a sudden it changed to 7 o'clock p.m. So literally our last ride was that 7 o'clock p.m. ride. So it's kind of inconvenient in that way. Connected to that is the fact, it's another con, you can't actually pick your time. So when I was trying to stack for later in the day for Epcot or Hollywood Studios or anything like that, it was just next available time. And I literally had to spend most of the day picking up the app and refreshing it and seeing if a later time in the day would pop up so I could get that 5, 6, 7 o'clock time frame. And it would just be stuck on 3 o'clock for ages, you know? So that's really inconvenient. It would be nice. I think one of the biggest upgrades, two of my favorite upgrades would be change that. Let us pick the time, especially if we're stacking for a park later on in the day. Like we take an afternoon nap, we go back to the hotel and we chill out. Let us pick our time. So if we are at Hollywood Studios later, you know, let us pick sometimes after dinner. Not just sit there obsessively refreshing our phone, which was really irritating. And then the other con and my other biggest upgrade would be to have a modify button. I think I heard somewhere just this week that maybe there might be a modify button all of a sudden, but it wasn't there when we were there in December. And I would love to see a modify button along with the opportunity to pick our times, because you used to be able to do that with FastPass. I know that's our only sort of comparison here, because years ago, if the FastPass was convenient, you could pick 3 at a time. Another con, you only get to pick 1 at a time. So you can either do the stacking method, which allows you to pick a ride every 2 hours after park opening. So 7 a.m., you go on, you pick your favorite ride. And then after the parks open, so usually they were all 9 a.m. when we went there, the next available time slot would be at 11. So as soon as that 9 o'clock park opening hit, then 11 o'clock would be your next stacking. And you could stack every 2 hours after that. So it'd be 11, 1, 3, things like that. And then you could pick them for later on in the day. But what we ended up doing a lot of the times was we would do a different park in the morning and a different park in the evening. So I would start stacking around lunchtime. So we would have lunch in whatever park we were doing, go back to the hotel, but I would start stacking at that point for later on in the afternoon for the next park. Another con with regards to park hopping was that you had to go back to the main screen and change park continually. And then something weird happened where we weren't actually able to see like your next available time or something from that screen. It was kind of weird how it did your second park of the day. I didn't really quite like that. So I changed the park a lot when I would refresh the whole app and go back into it. And then I think that the 2 last cons would be that the fancy rides, the top tier, number 1 ride of each park. So at least it's only 1 at each park. It was 2 at each park a few months ago, but the top rides are individual Lightning Lane purchases. So for example, Animal Kingdom is a really good one. I paid for Lightning Lane for Pandora Flight of Passage. I did not buy Genie Plus. I didn't think I needed it. The only ride I ended up missing was Navi River Journey because it was just full all day, which is surprising because usually I can get in there at some point, especially at the end of the night. But we didn't even get in there. At the end of the night, it was still a 70-minute wait, and it was legitimately 70 minutes. So that was one kind of snafu. I still don't think that paying $15 per person for just that one ride would have been worth it to me, but the Lightning Lane for the Pandora Flight of Passage was absolutely worth it in that park. And then the other rides are Rise of the Resistance in Hollywood Studio. That's a pay purchase, individual Lightning Lane separate from the Genie Plus for the rest of the park. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in Magic Kingdom. I'm sure Tron will be added to that list. There might be two. I don't know if maybe they'll push Mine Train over, but Tron will definitely be virtual line and pay to ride Lightning Lanes when it first opens, at least for a little while. And then Epcot, well, right now, Guardians of the Galaxy is either virtual queue or Lightning Lane only. There's no standby wait for that right now. So that Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is the only Lightning Lane right now, pay to purchase in Epcot, which makes Epcot actually a really good choice for doing Genie Plus because you get Frozen, Test Track, and Ratatouille all in that one Genie Plus tier. And then the last con is, of course, the price. They recently changed the price just before our trip. I want to say it was in November they changed the price. It used to be $15 a day. Then it turned into a variable $15 to $28 per person per day, depending on the busy season. So obviously Christmas Day would have been $28. But when we were there, most of the times it was between $15 and $17. I think Hollywood Studios ended up being $17 a day for Genie Plus. And with regards to Guardians of the Galaxy, we were able to get a virtual queue, so that was free and we didn't have to pay for Lightning Lane. And I wanted to get the virtual queue for that specifically because I wanted to see the full queue. I didn't want to go into the side queue, which is a lot shorter, and you don't get to see all the fun details and models and things. So I'm glad I was able to get a virtual queue, and that showed up around 12. We were called around 12. So I think that is my main pros and cons list. I had to write it down because unfortunately the cons are really kind of outweighing the pros, but the one biggest pro is that you get to do more. If you're there for a full 7 days or even a full 6 days and you get to do multiple parks over multiple days, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just pick at some rides as you can and then pick those Lightning Lanes for the really important ones like Pandora Flight of Passage. But for us, only being at Disney for 4 days, and that wasn't even 4 full days, it was like 3.5 days because we ended up going in our first day around 11. By the time we checked in, had breakfast, put our luggage away, got on the bus and got into the park after we picked up our passes, it was 11 o'clock by the time we finally got in. And then it was time for our Lightning Lane at that point. So for us, it was worth it because we wanted to hit a lot of rides and we don't do full park days. We don't do rope drop to park close. We usually take a 2, 3, 4 even sometimes hour break in the middle of the day. After lunch, we usually have an early lunch and then leave the parks for a while. So for us, it was worth it because I was able to actually hit most of those big rides. Magic Kingdom is the #1 park where it was worth it the most. It was most worth it there because that's where your nostalgia rides are going to be. So that's where a lot of people are spending a lot of their energy. There are adults there that have been going since they were kids. I was an adult when we first started going. We were married. That was within the last 10 years. So we don't have as much of that nostalgia that a lot of the families are going for, that they're bringing their kids now. I think there's going to be that amount of nostalgia for James now that we're bringing him along and we're having fun with him and we're making memories. But Magic Kingdom is not our favorite park, but it's the hardest park to ride all the big ticket rides. We've still never done Jungle Cruise, y'all. I don't know why that's such a popular ride, but I think it's that nostalgia factor as well. One day I'm sure we'll do it. Pirates is my nostalgia ride. I went on that. I went on a day trip with my aunt and I was 19 years old and we went on Pirates, and the smell and the sounds, and of course being part of the movies that they filmed on my island, like that is a top #1 ride for me. And then for thrill factor, Space Mountain is the second in my opinion, but the first in Michael's, because he's a thrill seeker. So it was definitely worth it being able to bounce around. And as you can see from our Magic Kingdom videos, we got a lot of rides done in those days that we were able to use Genie Plus and kind of get through them really quickly with early park admission. So I think that you need to make your strategy based around your family and based around the park and how much time you have at each of those parks. And make sure that you are using your early park hours strategically, so that then you can start stacking those lightning lane or those Genie Plus lightning lanes later on. So I hope that these videos helped you, and thank you so much for watching.